Vegas Pro is more than an editing timeline. It can also become a surprisingly powerful space for building custom motion graphics and visual designs. In this video, we'll combine alpha elements, composite them directly over video, and use TrackFX to push the final look even further. The best part is that everything stays inside the timeline, fully editable and ready to adapt to your own productions. I'm Grand Cave Boris FX, and let's build something. So to start, here we have a background of a skier heading down the slope. We'd like to add a combination of motion graphics on top of this visual. But at no point do we want the background to be affected by anything we create on top of it. Therefore, we'll use a combination of compositing parents and compositing children to isolate the work from the background or any other tracks underneath the composite. I've already talked about the basics of track compositing in a previous video. I'll link it in the description below. Let's do something even more interesting and challenging. Going to the project media window, we have two motion graphic elements we'd like to combine together. Both elements are already animated. These could have been created internally with a media generator, but let's get to the tricky bit. They have embedded alpha channels, which is indicated by the checkerboard pattern, and they'll automatically key on the timeline tracks. If these were just black and white images with no alpha, you'd create the transparencies with a mask generator effects as a luminance key, like I showed properly in the other video. To add them to the timeline, we'd right-click underneath the background and add a video track. Repeat this again, as we'll use an alpha per video track. Drag the first spinning disk to video track 2, followed by the second spinning disk to the top video track 1. Both tracks are composited over the background, and if we mute one or the other, we can see how they're overlapping on each other. To isolate the two graphics before they composite over the background, we need to place them in a compositing parent-child relationship. That's Vegas's way of establishing how two video tracks interact with the rest of the timeline. We'll use track 1 as the compositing parent, and track 2 underneath will be the compositing child. To push track 2 into track 1, click the More button in the track list. Choose to make a compositing child. Looking closely at the track list, we can see that track 2 is now inside track 1. To clarify, whatever we do between tracks 1 and 2 will happen first. The result of these tracks will composite over the background on track 3. Currently, the two alphas are combining right on top of each other. Click the More button for the parent track and look at the compositing modes. The default source alpha is simply layering one over the other. This is no different to choosing the add mode in this case. Choosing the multiply mode will multiply the black and white pixels between the parent and child tracks, creating a different combined result. The other mode we have is cut. It's very important to remember that the parent track cuts from the child track and not the other way around. Using the compositing mode of the parent track, we can choose cut, and the alpha of the parent track will be cut or subtracted from the child track. These two alphas are now combined within the compositing parent and child tracks. This combined result is then composited with the background on the track below. Once you're used to this workflow, it's simple to take a bunch of graphical elements and combine them into something more complex and visually pleasing. But surely, we wouldn't want to use a white fill all the time. Combining a fill or texture with an alpha can also be done with the compositing tracks. I prefer this method because if we need to trim the footage or even change it, we simply edit the event. Looking in the project media window, here we have a contrasting sunset beach that will be great as a fill for the graphic. Go to the track list and right-click over the top video track. Choose to insert a new video track above everything else. Next, drag the event to the top video track and it will cover everything else in the video preview. To combine this image with the alphas we've already created, Without affecting the background, we'll also need to use the compositing parent and child tracks. The fill on the top track should be the parent, and the alpha should be the child. Click the More button of Track 2 and choose to make a compositing child. Track 2 becomes a child of Track 1, but don't forget, it also had its own child from when we composed the two alphas earlier. Track 3 did move, but it also has been made a child of Track 1. We need to ensure that the alphas on Track 2 and 3 combine first before combining with the fill on Track 1. Click the More button of Track 3 and choose to make it a composite child for Track 2 again. Using this configuration, you can nest multiple composites within themselves to produce a series of combined results. To combine the fill with the alpha result, click the More button of the top parent track. Choose the composite mode and multiply the fill with the masks. The video preview updates, and we have created a custom design with motion graphic elements and filled with a texture of our choosing. All of this is built in the timeline with the video tracks, which are live and fully editable. It looks great, but it's quite flat and needs a few finishing touches. That's where the TrackFX can help. In the Vegas Pro Essentials, I introduced video event effects as a great way to apply an effect directly to a specific event in the timeline. Wherever that event moves, the effect moves with it, keeping everything neatly connected. For this workflow, we are working on a composite across video tracks, so applying the effects at the track level gives us even more flexibility. This allows every event on the track to share the same treatment, while keeping the overall composite easy to adjust and reuse. I'll show you an example. Let's apply a TrackFX to the parent track that manages the entire group of compositing parent and child tracks. Click the More button on the parent track at the top of this hierarchy. In the pull-down menu, you'll see the option for TrackFX. Clicking this option brings up the plugin chooser window. This will display all the filters available for track compositing. To add a drop shadow, emboss, or glow to the track, locate the layer dimensionality effect. Click the Add button to add it to the effects chain and click OK. The Video Track Effects window appears, and if we look at the top left of the window, we can see a few important details. The top line identifies the specific video track. You'll see the track number, color, and name. The second line is the effects chain for the selected video track. Every video track will always have a composite entry in the effects chain. This is when the track compositing takes place. Why is this so important? Well, TrackFX can be applied before or after the track compositing takes place. For example, let's add a drop shadow. This is in the layer dimensionality effect, and we can speed things up by choosing a preset. Even though we have an active effect on the track, the composite still looks the same in the video preview. This is because the effect is applied to the track before it's composed with the alphas and the background. The effects in the effects chain go from left to right. In order for the effect to apply correctly, drag the layer dimensionality effect after the composite in the effects chain. Looking at the video preview, the drop shadow is now applied to the top group of tracks, and we can start adjusting the shadow. Let's go to the Emboss section and change a few of the settings. Let's add another effect to the track with the Effects Plus button. In the plugin chooser window, select the Picture-in-Picture effect. Notice how the Picture-in-Picture effect is applied before the composite in the effects chain. If you adjust the scale, see how the video texture is scaling within the alphas of the motion graphic. To scale and position the entire graphic, move the Picture-in-Picture effect after the composite. The next time we move and scale the effect, it moves everything after the composite, allowing us to place the graphic wherever we like within the frame. This is such a powerful workflow to know, and it's super flexible. I'll delete the sunset video and reuse the background video as the new texture for the graphics. And just like that, we've created this mirrored result. It's a great example of how a simple compositing setup can produce something that feels so much more dynamic. There are plenty of other directions you could take this, but let's finish with one final example. Here we're using the same motion graphics, only this time they're tracked onto the background. Once again, it's all created using track compositing. If you've liked this or have any further questions about Vegas Pro, please let us know in the comments. I'm Grant K for Boris FX, and see you next time.